So this today is going to be a video response to a video that Tom Ridgewell posted on his second channel yesterday entitled Unapologetically Me. I'm gonna leave a link down in the description, so if you'd like to go watch that video first before you watch this one, I would suggest doing that. I want to start by saying that I love Tom's videos. I've watched his videos for as long as I can remember. I remember being in high school and watching his skits and his funny videos with my friends, and we would crack up and laugh and watch them over and over and over again because we thought that they were so funny. And then when we got into college, I kind of started thinking differently, and I started being more socially aware, and I started learning about new things, and it was kind of wonderful because Tom's videos started to do the same thing. His videos were still really funny, but the humor changed as I changed. And so I really appreciated it, and I still was able to enjoy his content really well. There seemed to be some people that Tom was worried about or was addressing in his video, saying that they think that Tom is playing the YouTube game, and that's why his content has changed. They think that he is pandering to a certain audience, or that he's just trying to get views or just trying to get money. I guess the easiest way for me to explain this is that I lived in London for like 6 months, and I didn't really have a ton of friends, and so I went looking for other people interested in YouTube. And the best way to do that is to start going to creator events. And when you live around a YouTube space, you learn about things, and if you go looking for it, it's really quite easy to find other YouTubers. It's really quite easy to find events that fans don't really know about. And to attend them and to go and to make friends. When you're there, it becomes very obvious very quickly who is playing the game and what the game is. When you're there and you're a creator, there are certain expectations that they have of you in order to be considered a YouTuber and not a fan. It becomes very obvious who's playing that game and who just wants the views and who just wants to do collabs because they want numbers. And this is coming from someone who was literally on the farthest outreach outside of this community that I could possibly get in the short time that I was living there. And it was still so toxic and so stressful to feel like I had to act a certain way, or I had to talk a certain way, or I had to do certain things to be considered included in that community. And Tom in no way prescribes to this. A lot of the time, people in the community view it as us versus them. It's creator versus fan. And if you are not a creator, you are considered a fangirl. You're considered that you can't be trusted. If you are a creator, they consider themselves superior to their viewers a lot of the times, and they pretend like they don't. They say on their videos like, oh no, you guys are my number one, I would never, I love you guys so much. But when you meet them in real life and when you talk to them, it becomes very obvious that like that's not true. It's really easy to hide behind a camera and to say something, and honestly they might genuinely believe it themselves, but it's just not true when you actually start talking to them and learning more about them personally and talking to them at conventions or at creator events or out in public. It becomes really obvious really quickly that they don't mean it when they say it. And Tom is one of the very few people I've ever met that really genuinely means it. My experience meeting Tom was one of the best experiences in my entire life. And honestly, looking back on it is a lot of the reason I was encouraged to even create this channel in the first place. I met Tom at Summer in the City earlier this year, and I went to one of the panels at Creator Day, and that was the creator-viewer divide, which is kind of an important one for what we're talking about today. It's something that's always been interesting to me, and I had a question I was dying to ask Tom because I knew that he would have a really interesting answer. I raised my hand first every single time they even thought about asking another question. I probably had my hand raised for 30 minutes of the 40-minute panel. And it gets to the very last question, and I was kind of sitting in the back, and the guy with the microphone goes to pick another person, and Tom speaks up and he says, no, there's a girl in the back, tell her to come up here and we will give her the microphone because I really want to hear what her question is. She's had her hand up every single time. And I walk up to the front and I ask my question, and my question was about responsibility and creators and double standards, and the question's not really the point. Tom answers my question very eloquently, and the panel ends, and after the panel is over, I go back out to the main lobby and Tom spends 20 minutes talking to me about YouTube and my question and culture overall. And he didn't talk down to me, and he didn't treat me like I was less of a person or I was stupid or my question was dumb. He genuinely was interested in talking to me and hearing what I had to say, and it didn't feel like a one-sided conversation where he was talking at me and I was listening. It was definitely felt like I had the opportunity to share my experiences and share my opinions, and he listened just as much as I listened to him and wanted to learn from him. Past that, I watched Tom the entire summer in the city. He stood in front of his booth, not behind, in front of his booth the entire 3 days. Anyone who wanted to meet Tom, you didn't have to win a meet and greet ticket. You just had to go stand there for 10 minutes and wait to go meet him. And Tom didn't just get a hug and a selfie and you walked off. It was, he had a conversation with you. As long as it took for that conversation to come to a natural close, that's how long he took with you. Whatever it was that you wanted to spend your time talking to Tom about, he talked to you about it. So many people think that this type of culture isn't possible with YouTube, but that's the type of culture that was always intended on YouTube. The only reason we have fandoms and the only reason we have conventions where there are people screaming and people crying and trying to get at their favorite person and just get a selfie and that's it, is because they've encouraged it to begin with. And I'm not saying that it started that way, like it started, but they encouraged it from there. And people like Tom are proof that it doesn't have to be that way. He could just as easily make it that way. He could be super famous with millions of subscribers, girls screaming, getting a selfie and moving on, and it would be fine and people would be fine with that. But he doesn't feel right doing that. He doesn't feel right playing that game. And because he has that expectation for his viewers, they act accordingly. And he stood out there and he talked to every single person. I at one point saw him eating a sandwich. He didn't even leave for lunch. He stood there and he talked to every single person. And it was very clear how much respect he has for every single person that watches his videos, for every person that thinks about his videos and wants to learn from him and his videos. And he's not just all talk about it. And if you ever meet him in real life, you would know that. And every other creator, for the most part, that I've ever met, regardless of how big or small, if they are at an event as a guest, you are a fan. It doesn't matter if you make videos, it doesn't matter if you're older, it doesn't matter if you're respectful, it doesn't matter what it is. You're a fan and I'm a YouTuber, and I expect you to walk up to me, give me a hug, say how much you love my videos, get a selfie and leave. He is honestly one of the only good YouTubers that I've ever met. He's the only one that is aware enough of what happens in the YouTube community and cares enough to say no. I refuse to play your game. I'm going to do what I feel good doing. I'm going to do what I feel is right. This community has a lot of problems, and Tom is one of the handful of YouTubers that recognizes that and cares enough to try and stop it, at least in their own communities. And for anyone who doesn't feel that way, or for anyone who doesn't see that, then you have not delved deep enough into the YouTube community to understand that that's what's happening behind the scenes. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I know it was probably kind of long, but I feel like it's really, really important to me, and Tom is a really important YouTuber to me, and I think that he's really great. And I just kind of wanted to take a moment to talk about my experiences with him and talk about some of the bad sides of the YouTube community, because they are definitely there, and that's 90% of the reason I even have this channel. Being told that I am expected to act a certain way or be a certain way is the reason I make YouTube culture videos, because I love this community and I want this community to flourish and be a positive one, but some of my experiences in them have made it very obvious that it can be a negative one. And I'm just glad that Tom is trying to do right and that Tom is sticking to his guns and doing what he feels is the right thing to do, because I think that he's on the right track, and I think that he is one of the few YouTubers who understands what's happening and wants to make it better.